Are you in the market for wheels, tires, maybe a lift kit, some aftermarket purchase for your truck? If you are, you're gonna wanna watch this video. Today, I'm gonna show you 3 ways that you can save $500 to $1,000 on your next wheels, tires, and lift kit purchase, or any aftermarket purchase for that matter. We see customers day in and day out that make lots of mistakes in the process of trying to buy an aftermarket package. Again, whether it be a lift kit, wheels, or tires, there's a certain process you should go about in making that purchase and that installation. And today I want to help you understand that a little better so you can save time, you could save money, you could save energy, and you could save the headache that goes along with making these decisions the wrong way. My name's Shane. I'm here with SoCo Customs in Colorado Springs, and we help our customers build the truck of their dreams. And I'm going to jump right in and I'm going to get to it. So without further ado, here we go. So the first mistake I want to talk about is not actually a mistake to begin with, but it can end you in hot water pretty quickly if you don't watch out. And that's going to friends and forums to determine what kind of build you want on your truck. Now we totally get it, right? There's nothing wrong with doing research and idealizing that truck, dreaming about it, seeing a friend's truck and see what they've got, that beautiful lift kit, what it looks like, wheels and tires and that whole look, and loving that. Nothing wrong with that. But then you start looking at forums, you start getting feedback from people who may not be aware of how to do these jobs, how to install them, what parts to buy first and last through that entire process, and you can end up in hot water pretty quickly. One of the biggest mistakes that is made in this process is when it comes to fitment. You could have a 2018 model of truck in the same model and make and trim of that truck 1 year later, and the fitment could be completely different, and you may end up making a choice based on that previous year's truck, buying the lift kit or the wheels and tires with a specific offset, and come to find out when you go to put it all on, you put several hours into the process and it ends up not being the right fit, not being the right tools, not being the right installation procedure, or any of those things, and you can end up having to take it all apart, send parts back to the manufacturer and all that stuff. What you really want to do in this circumstance is you want to get the feedback of a shop like ours that does this day in and day out to understand what the process looks like, what parts you should buy, if there are differences in fitment, if there's any intricacies or nuances that you need to understand when going to make this purchase. You can always give us a call, ask us the questions about that, and we can help you to make a better decision so that you don't end up buying parts that you don't need, having to pay shipping to get them back once you put them on, and then there's warranty issues. There's a whole host of things that can happen from this, and believe me, you do not want to fight those battles when it comes to just making the decisions properly. You always want to do that first. Let me tell you about Steve. Steve is one of our customers, and he went out and he did all this research. He got the idea from a friend of his truck, just like what I'm talking about. Went to forums, verified all this information, and got a bunch of other information gathered on the lift kit and the wheels and tires that he wanted. Researched the parts, ended up buying all of it from separate suppliers, and then one day it all got to his house and he was ready to install it. Well, he gets into his garage, gets it all taken apart, gets it all put back together with the wheels, tires, lift kit all on there, and it ends up that the wheels that he bought with the offset that he got ended up touching the caliper of his brakes, and the wheels wouldn't turn. So Steve had to disassemble the entire build, take all the parts back off, and reassemble his truck back to stock, which is just hours and hours of unnecessary work. So Steve had to return his wheels that he bought back to the factory, and Steve had to pay for the shipping to send those wheels back to the manufacturer. Then he brought it to us, and we had to install this lift kit that he had already installed, but because the knuckle changed, the wheels would not fit properly, so he had to take it all back apart. Finally, we reinstalled the lift kit a final time, and we put the proper wheels with the right offset on it, and it all went together back smoothly. But just think about how all of that went wrong before we ended up finally getting it put together. Had Steve come to us initially at the beginning of this process and not relied on those friends and those forums and really had a resource like us to help him just even know what parts to buy, what offset to go with that truck for that lift kit, he would have saved all that money, wouldn't have had to pay shipping, wouldn't have had to order the wrong wheels and tires. He would have just had a so much smoother of a process. He probably would have saved hundreds of dollars in that process, because he ended up at our shop anyway, and we ended up doing it right. But you could just see how it could have been done properly to begin with had he just followed the right process. Now, the second mistake that we see people make all the time is not knowing how to prioritize their purchases. So say you're going out, you want to put wheels, tires, and a lift kit on your truck, and you say to yourself, you know, I'm just going to buy the lift kit today. I'm going to get that put on first, and then once I get that done, and a couple of months later when I save up some more cash, I'm going to go ahead and buy those wheels and tires and get those put on. You may end up in hot water by doing it this way because you're not looking at it holistically, and the kind of wheels and tires that you get could often be completely dependent upon the lift kit that you buy, and you need to buy them in coordination, at least understanding how one is going to affect the other and the installation as a whole before you end up buying something that's not going to fit with something else that you buy. These parts can be thousands of dollars, right? Nice set of wheels could be end up $2,500 with the tires, over $3,000, plus a lift kit, depending upon how high you go with that, another couple of $1,000s for the installation and all of that. So you can see how you could end up in hot water pretty quickly if you don't know how to buy these things in the right order, and you end up having to send things back and take things off and put things back on, or one thing that you bought didn't work at all and you have to buy new things, then you're just out that money because warranty's not going to cover that. All right, now say you're going to go out and purchase wheels, tires, and a lift kit, and you think to yourself, you know, I'm just going to buy the lift kit today, and then later on I'm going to save up some more cash, I'm going to buy those wheels and tires. Now you see when you buy this lift kit that there are certain back spacing requirements that are needed to clear some aftermarket parts, and that is a really big deal. Now say you went out and bought wheels and tires and you got them installed on a factory ride height and everything looks good and works well. Then you go and you buy the lift kit later on, and you realize once you get that installed that there's certain back spacing requirements that are needed to clear that lift kit that won't apply to those wheels and tires on a stock ride height. Now all of a sudden you're in trouble. This is literally the equivalent of throwing money directly out the window, and nobody wants to do that. I know not me, I know not you. So if you know you want to purchase a lift kit and you don't know that height yet, whether it be a leveling kit or 3 or 4 or 6 or 8 or 10 inches, and you buy wheels and tires that are meant to fit a stock ride height, you may not end up using the same wheels and tires or offset at all when you actually put that lift kit on. So that's what I mean by prioritizing your purchases. If you know what you want in the end result of the truck, which we can help you figure that out and understand exactly what needs to go into getting that build done, and then help you phase out those purchases so that you know what to buy first, what affects the next purchase, and how to do that in the right order, you could literally end up saving $1,000 or more on this whole installation and this whole purchase. Now, the third mistake that we see all the time is trying to do this installation and purchase yourself. Yeah, I know there's a lot of you enthusiasts out there and a lot of you have a great base of knowledge to do this, but more often than not, we find customers go out, buy parts from different suppliers, different vendors, different manufacturers, only to end up back at our shop anyway to do the job the right way because it didn't go the way that they anticipated, expected, etc. And they end up having to come back and see us anyway to do it the right way. The best way to go about this is to partner with a shop like ours or another shop that does this all the time and understands the intricacies of the jobs that need to be done in these kinds of installations, the nuances between the different makes and models and fitments, and just all of the different kind of idiosyncrasies that are going to happen and that you run into on a daily basis that are not going to be in the manual of the lift kit, and they're not going to be in any information on forums or any of those sites unless you really do some digging, and sometimes still not even with some of these newer trucks where the models just haven't been out long enough for there to be adequate information on how to install properly and what you may run into in the process. Now, not only is a shop like ours going to understand these processes for installation and how to buy the parts and where to get them, but oftentimes we've got relationships because of the volume of which we buy products and these parts from these vendors and from these manufacturers. So that means that we get special deals and discounts to buy certain lift kits, wheels, tires, because we're either a premier dealer of Method or we are a dealer of a certain capacity with Rough Country, and we get deals where we can get the parts much less expensively than most consumers can when you're buying from an individual vendor out there or from a manufacturer's website. In addition to that, because we're a shop that does so much business, buys in such volume and such frequency, we also have relationships that allow us to deal with warranty much more effectively than the average consumer would, and we understand how to do that. We do it on a daily basis, right? Where you want to protect your investment. These are thousands of dollars you're putting into in parts and installation, and if you have a warranty issue, it's going to become a headache for you really quick, especially if you did that installation. Whereas if we do, oftentimes we can get that part overnighted because we know the process to go through, they know who we are, and they deal with us differently than they would a consumer, and you don't have to worry about the process of having to uninstall something and reinstall something, which if you have a job, you got a family, you got kids, your time is your most valuable asset. And yes, it's great to be an enthusiast and do this job on the weekend, and it's an accomplishment, no doubting that, but to have to go and tear it all apart again on another weekend to hopefully get it reinstall back by the time Monday comes around, sacrifice that family time that's so valuable, and that football time, if it's football season or whatever it is that you're doing in your free time. That's another story entirely, and a lot of people just don't think about that when they do these things on their own. In the end, a lot of times people end up trying to save money by going to different manufacturers and vendors to buy their parts from different sources, and they end up spending more money than they would had they just gone to a shop that understands this, that has the relationships and gets the better deals on the parts to begin with, and end up saving you money in the long haul by doing it that proper way. All right, guys, so today I've covered 3 mistakes we see happen all the time that end up costing truck owners thousands of dollars sometimes, but usually hundreds, if not thousands of dollars when they make these purchases of aftermarket lift kits, wheels, and tires. The first mistake is going to friends and forums. We covered that. The second mistake is not knowing how to prioritize your purchases as you look at the process of the build completely and holistically. And the third mistake is just doing it yourself. That can end you in a hot water. And again, all of these can cost you money, but more importantly, they're gonna cost you a headache. They're gonna cost you stress. They're gonna cost you time, again, which we've talked about is the most valuable asset we all have. So why don't you let us help you? Let us get involved. Let us help you put your build together. Let us help you answer your questions or prioritize those purchases and plan that build out so that you don't end up wasting a bunch of money, paying for shipping for parts that you don't need or that weren't the right parts, and that you end up with the truck that you really dream about and want without all the headache, without all the pressure, without all the anxiety and stress. Comment below with any questions that you have or any sort of feedback that you have on this video, any experiences that you might have had doing this kind of a build or this installation yourself. We'd love to know what your experience has been in this process, and any questions that you have, we would love to answer them.